Hey, this is Rashad from Robotic Automata. We will be doing a little Selenium rest assured testing example overview. Specifically, we'll be covering Selenium, which is a test automation tool to test UIs instead of having to manually do a UI test. So to explain what I mean, let's say we want to test this little application, contact list app. And we might do things like create a user, and then we have to type in all those fields and click submit. And then maybe you just want to log out. And then we just want to verify that all of that works. Now we could do that every single day manually, but how about instead we can automate it? Now we will be covering a few things that you can automate, but some other things that would be great to automate would be logging in if you already have a user, would be putting in incorrect fields, would be actually testing the functionality, which is being able to add a new contact, and then things like updating your user and updating the contacts. These are the APIs that are working in the backend, though we don't need to cover this for this tutorial, but in our previous video we did do a REST API based testing if you just want to test the backend, which tend to be much faster and you can be much more comprehensive in backend testing. So let's take a look at our repository structure, specifically regarding the UI tests. So here inside of tests we have a UI smoke test. And this will be relying on our environment, which points to where we will be opening our browser, as well as creating a random user. And then we have a number of page objects that we will use to do things like login. For example, the login page will let you log in. So if we just want to run the UI test, let's go ahead and copy the Maven command to run the UI test. So let's go ahead and run the UI test. So the test will essentially just be opening the browser, creating a new user, and then logging out. And so let's take a look at our output. So here's our output. It's very lean compared to, say, a BDD report with Cucumber, but that's kind of the point. We're assuming that this will not be non-technical folk facing. It will simply be in your target Surefire reports, and here I'm looking at the emailable report. We just ran one test, which was our smoke test and the happy path test. So let's take a look at the code. So we specifically want to take a look at our tests, UI tests, and smoke tests, smoke UI tests. So we will be setting up a user, a driver, and in our before class, before everything, all the tests get run, we want to go ahead and get a random user. Here we simply go ahead and create a new user with faker, because we don't really need, we can just use random data essentially. We create a fake value service, and then from here we get an email, a password, and we're going to put in our random user, our first name, last name, email, and password, and then we're going to go ahead and return the random user. Then we're going to go ahead and create a driver, new Chrome driver, as well as maximize our driver. You can do things like depending on what kind of driver you want, setting up different command line options, but just to keep it simple, we're just going with Chrome. So in our case, we're going to go ahead and create a login page object, and we instantiate it with driver, and then we can go ahead and open it and then assert that that page did indeed load. So to open the page, we essentially just navigate to our environment, which is just the URL of the app. And then we need to assert, once we open that page, that we did indeed load that page. So here we just wait until expected conditions, and we're looking for an element to be clickable, which is our submit button. And that's kind of the structure of all of these pages. So the pages at the top have a number of elements, right? And let's take a look at our base page. This is what each page extends. So base page has a WebDriver and WebDriver wait, and we need to pass in a driver, as well as we will create the WebDriver wait. By making it abstract, we force everybody to instantiate, as well as we force everybody to have an assert is loaded method. So then let's go ahead and do our happy path test. So what does that do? Essentially, we will login page, navigate to the add user page. We will go to the add user page and assert that it is loaded. We will add a new user. We will assert that once we add a new user, we're on the contact list page and that it did load. We'll go ahead and log out. And then once we're logged out, we want to verify that we are now on the login page. And then after the class over, we're going to just quit out. So just to give an example, let's take a look at add new user. So here we're going to go ahead and for each field, so what are these fields, by the way? These fields reference this. So for example, first name field, we're going to go ahead and clear anything if there's in there, and then we're going to send the keys first name, essentially. And we're going to do that for each of the fields. And then finally, we're going to click on the submit button. And you know, the repository is pretty simple. I hope I explained it a little bit. If it's still confusing, you know, definitely take a look at the repo. Definitely try out testing some different examples, and I hope to make a blog tutorial. But otherwise, I hope you learned something and have a nice day.